Before you fall in love with an acre lot in West Houston, before you start imagining your kids running through that yard and your morning coffee on that big back porch, there are some things I need you to know. Not because I want to talk you out of it. I love this lifestyle. It's one I live daily, and I have watched hundreds of families build beautiful lives on land out here. However, I have also sat across from buyers who got into an acreage home and were genuinely caught off guard by things that nobody, not their agent, not the builder, ever told them to expect. Most of the time, they did not find out until they were actually under contract, or worse, until they had been living in their home a few months. By then, there is not much you can do except figure it out. I do not want this to be you. So today, I'm giving you the real talk, the full picture of what it actually looks like, feels like, and costs to own half an acre to an acre out here in West Houston. All of it. The wells and the septic, the propane, the wildlife, the insurance, the internet, the resale, all of it. And I promise you, if you hear everything in this video and still want the land, you are going to be a more prepared buyer for it. Honestly, you are probably going to love it even more because you will know exactly what you're saying yes to. As always, my name is Raquel Bell, your trusted friend in real estate right here in West Houston. And I have had the joy of calling West Houston home for over 24 years. And I've helped over 350 families find home out here in the Katy, Fulshear, Richmond, Cypress, Houston, and surrounding areas. Before I was a real estate advisor, I spent almost 9 years as a special needs teacher, which means listening to what people actually need is kind of my thing. If you are thinking about making a move to West Houston, whether that is this year or you are just starting to dream about it, I would genuinely love to help you find home. My contact information is right below this video. Send me a message or shoot me a text or give me a call. Let's start with the thing that gets most buyers excited about acreage in the first place, and that is the taxes. I want to be clear, the tax advantage is real, and it is significant. Many acreage communities out here in Fulshear and West Houston do not carry what we call a MUD tax. That is a municipal utility district tax, which is something you are absolutely paying in most master plan communities in this area. When you remove that from your tax bill, the savings can be hundreds of dollars a month depending on your home value. The math is real and it adds up every single year you own the home. So yes, lower taxes. That is a genuine win, and it is one of the strongest financial arguments for choosing an acreage community. But here's what comes with that trade-off. And this is the part people do not always put together when they're running the numbers at the kitchen table. When there is no MUD, there is often no city water connection, no city sewer, and the infrastructure a utility district would normally provide is now your responsibility to source, which means most acreage homes out here run on a private well for water and a septic system for wastewater. And those two systems are exactly where I want to start because they are working systems that require attention, maintenance, and occasionally real money. Most buyers have never owned one of these before. Let's talk about your water first. On a city lot, you turn on the tap and you never think twice about it, right? On acreage, your water comes from a private well, which is a pump that pulls groundwater up from below of your property. When that system is working well, it is truly wonderful. Your water quality can actually be excellent. You're not paying a monthly water bill to a utility company either. There is a level of self-sufficiency to it that a lot of acreage buyers genuinely love about this lifestyle. However, wells do need maintenance, and they do not last forever. The pump itself typically lasts somewhere between 10 to 25 years, depending on the system, how hard it is working, and how consistently it has been serviced. When it fails, and eventually it will, a pump replacement can run anywhere from $800 to $2,500 or more, depending upon the depth of the well and the type of system. A full well re-drill, if it ever comes to that, can push you anywhere between $5,000 to $15,000. You also want to test your water quality regularly. Once a year is a good standard and required by most of your local counties. Here's why. Groundwater can shift over time. Minerals, bacteria, changes may make the water unsafe and affect the taste and quality. Most acreage homeowners invest in a whole home filtration system at some point, which typically runs between $1,500 and $5,000 installed. This is not an emergency expense. However, it is a quality of life investment that most buyers are glad they made. During our option period, I always request the seller's full well inspection history. And then we conduct our own independent inspection on top of that. 2 layers of due diligence before you commit to anything. When we receive the information, we look at the age and condition of the system, and we will talk through what it means for that specific property. This information matters, and making sure you have it is a part of what it means to have a great agent in your corner. Now let's talk about septic, and I know this is the part of the conversation that makes people a little uncomfortable. Stay with me because understanding this system could genuinely save you thousands of dollars. A septic system is your home's private wastewater treatment. Everything that goes down your drain flows into a buried tank on your property, where solids settle and liquids move out through a drain field. When it is functioning properly, you will never know it is there. It is quiet, it is underground, and it just works. However, septic systems require monthly treatment, quarterly inspections per county, and routine pumping, typically every 3 to 5 years, depending upon your household size and usage. This service runs roughly around $300 to $600 each time. Not a big deal at all. You just put it on the calendar the way you do an HVAC tune-up. Where it gets more serious is when something goes wrong. A drain field that starts failing, which can happen due to age, overuse, or the wrong things going down the drain. This can cost anywhere from $3,000 to repair a section all the way up to $10,000 or even $30,000 for a full system replacement. That is a real number, and it belongs in your long-term budget from day one. Some acreage communities in this area also use what is called a drip irrigation septic system, a more advanced system that treats wastewater at a higher level and distributes it through small emitters across the surface of your land. These systems are actually excellent, but they have more mechanical components, which means more regular maintenance. So make sure to budget for an actual annual service contract, which is typically $300 to $600 a year, and just keep up with it. Okay, let's talk about a few infrastructure things that buyers almost never ask about until they are already under contract. The first one is natural gas. Now here's something worth knowing before I go any further. Some acreage communities in West Houston actually have natural gas lines running to the home. That is your Fullbrook, Weston Lakes, and Fulshear run, depending on the specific section. Many have gas available, and that is always something we verify on a property by property basis. However, in some acreage areas, and certainly in more rural pockets of West Houston, that city gas line does not make it out to the property. Which means if your home is set up for gas, your range, your water heater, your fireplace may run on propane instead. You will have a tank on your property that you own and you maintain. You will also schedule your own deliveries, and you will manage the fuel yourself. Don't worry, it is completely manageable, but it is a different rhythm than turning a dial and forgetting about it. So make sure to budget roughly $1,200 to $2,000 a year in propane on properties where it applies. The second one is power. Rural areas can experience longer outage windows than urban ones, especially after a storm. If you have a well that runs on electricity, a power outage means no running water until power is restored. That reality alone is why I strongly recommend any acreage buyer at least have a conversation about a whole home generator. Entry-level whole home generators start around $5,000 installed. The peace of mind they provide, especially for families with kids or anyone working from home, is hard to put a price on. A couple of smaller things worth knowing. Trash pickup does not always come to your door in acreage areas the way it does in a subdivision. In some areas, you will pay for a private service, typically $30 to $80 a month. And if your community has private roads, ask about who maintains them. In some acreage communities, residents share the cost of road grading and repair, which is a real line item in your annual budget, and it is worth knowing before you close. Okay. We still have a lot to cover when it comes to owning an acreage home in West Houston. So stay tuned for part 2, where we will go over your homeowner responsibilities, insurance requirements, the wildlife realities, and what it actually looks like when it ever comes time to sell your home. And if you do not want to wait for part 2, let's start the conversation now. My contact information is below. Until next time, friends.